let's get to the book about the royal family that they're all talking about. You'd like to avoid it, but good luck with that. You can't, because after weeks and weeks of extracts being made public, Endgame has finally been published today. And guess what? A book written by a man described as Harry and Meghan's favoured journalist has stuck the knife into the other royals, but the Sussexes get an easy ride. Some journalists have had the unpleasant job of having to trawl through Omid Scobie's book, and they didn't hold back. Anita Singh from The Telegraph really doesn't hold back at all. She says Endgame is ludicrous propaganda for Team Sussex, and she calls it laughably partial, devoid of insight and bizarrely misogynistic. When we get a Christmas card from her. And she describes it as a hit job, reading like a mum's net post. Hilary Rose and The Times, meanwhile, says that Omid Scobie is breathless, belligerent and boring. And even the New York Times weighed in with their writer, Eva Walchover, saying the chapter about Harry and Meghan reads like a press release cooked up by ChatGPT. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, for starters, apologies to you. You've had to read this book.
Yes.
And you've been talking about it all day. It hardly gets a glowing reception from the media. What's it actually like to read?
Well, it's actually, in terms of reading it, it's a very good read. It's well written. There's lots of juicy gossip in there. I suppose the question is, how much do we believe of this gossip? What it's not is a biography of Harry and Meghan. There is a lot of analysis about how Omid and his sources perceive the royal family is going to be in the future, and if it can survive in the modern day. But there is clearly a more sympathetic view of Harry and Meghan compared to other members of the royal family. In fact, Harry and Meghan, in my opinion, are perhaps painted as innocent victims in this, unlike the Princess of Wales, for example, who is described as the monarchy's last shiny thing for many years to come, and a part-time working royal, and giving the impression that she's only good for photo ops, essentially. So it has upset, as you read out there, some of the comments, some big royal fans. I think the problem is that when it comes to how the palace is going to respond to this, they're not. And even Harry and Meghan's team are not responding to this, suggesting to me perhaps they are trying to distance themselves from it. But you remember Omid Scobie's last book, Finding Freedom, in 2021. Originally, it was denied that Meghan Markle has any part in that book, but then in 2021, she apologised to the High Court for forgetting she allowed an aide to brief Omid and his co-author, Carolyn Durand, on that book.
So echoes of recollections may vary. One of the spiciest revelations in the book was this conversation about Archie's skin colour, which of course cuts straight to the dog whistle of, the royal family is racist. Is there any more detail on that?
Yeah, Omid Scobie goes into quite a lot of detail on that. So he now suggests that there are two alleged royal racists rather than one. If you remember back to 2021 Oprah interview, Meghan Markle accused an unnamed member of the royal family of questioning how dark her unborn son's skin would be when he was born. And Omid speaks about, in his book, this letter exchange between Charles and Meghan following that Oprah interview, in which two alleged royal racists are names. Now, that letter hasn't been announced by, hasn't been published by Omid. It was originally published in the Telegraph, not the full letter. But there's a big contrast here, because if you remember, Meghan sued the Mail on Sunday for publishing a section of her private letter to her father. So the question is she going to be upset that Omid is talking about more private letters which she has written, in this case to King Charles?
Don't you think it's really quite cowardly to sort of make this really hurtful and defamatory allegation? There are not one but two racists in the royal family, but then you don't name them. There's no proof, there's no verification, there's no source. It could be tittle-tattle, but nevertheless incredibly damaging tittle-tattle.
So Omid says he knows the identity of the two alleged royal racists, but will not name them for legal reasons, i.e. he doesn't want to get sued. In Omid's defence, he is entitled to free speech, and he is a royal journalist and does have sources on both sides, either Team Sussex or Team Royal Family. But clearly, it looks like there's a lot more members of Team Sussex speaking to him and giving him information on this. But
so briefly, Cameron, it's called Endgame. Is it Endgame, do you think, for the relationship between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family?
I think when it comes to William and Catherine, Yes, I think it is very hard to see how they're going to come back from that anytime soon. But I do know, because the sources told me close to the Sussexes, that Harry and Meghan both spoke to the King on his birthday last week to wish him a happy birthday. So some kind of olive branch is still being extended in that direction.
You're an optimistic soul, even after many, many hours of talking about this book. Thank you very much. Superb stuff. Thank you, Cameron Walker.